Good afternoon. It is 12:05 p.m. Central Time, that is, on Sunday, and of course, we've been on hiatus for a bit, but I could not let this new stream layout go to waste, and it's something that I've worked very hard on the past couple of days. So, before we get into today's topics, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guest hosts. We are, of course, going to start with my co host and friend from the ever lovely but stupid Canuckistan, our dirty Frenchy Frenchman, Dale. Please say hello, Dale.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show.
And then, of course, we are going to go and introduce our resident Serbian from the former Soviet state of Serbia. Please say hello, Mali.
Hello, Molly. I'm waving with my cat paws right now.
I do not currently know if our friend from the south, Stoner, is with us right now, though he is in the chat. So I'm going to go ahead and bounce over to our guest host that does not exist because his state doesn't exist, because fuck Ohio. Say hello, Mike.
You say fuck Ohio, and I laugh and say, yeah, if you're talking about Columbus.
No, just fuck Ohio. Fuck it all.
Yeah, no. You get on down to Southeast Ohio and you realize really damn quick, like, ooh, I like these hills. These hills are nice.
I've been to Southeast Ohio. I've been all over the continental 48. I don't like any of the states.
Are you one of those weirdos that is like, oh my god, I want to move to Alaska?
No,
No,
that's
I
me.
don't want to go there either. I just fucking hate I hate the land, I hate the people. But the thing is, as much as I hate home, I hate everywhere else more.
need to get a habitation module on the moon and then just be like, fuck you bitches.
This is why I don't go out. I don't like people. I don't like them at all. Not one bit.
Yeah, I could sympathize to a degree.
Okay, so our topic today is big dicks. I know that sounds fairly lewd, but
I didn't know we were talking about me today.
but it is not what it sounds like. So first up, we have this tweet from Pagliacci the Hated on Twitter. And it reads, ready to hear something completely insane? Female porn models have realized that trans porn is such an incredible cash cow that they're now pretending to be transgender. And the males who identify as women are angry at them for identifying as males who identify as women. Wait.
I know who I am. I'm a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude.
That's the reason why I clipped that.
That actually fits. Once you all roll it together, it fits so well.
That's the reason why I clipped that and why I made damn sure that it played before any of us started on this live stream.
So women are pretend. Right, so women in porn are now pretending to be trans to make more money.
Yeah.
Yes, specifically these two. Silly Lily and her friend. I don't know what her friend's name is. I don't care what her friend's name is. But it all just sort of blew up on this tweet, where everyone is just completely going at her. most of these people are trans girls, very specifically being mean to her, which I get. I understand. Why would you pretend to have a dick when you don't? Like, why would you identify as
Money.
yeah, pretty much. The grift is
Publicity is
strong
one
with her.
hell of a bitch.
That's like putting on like a blackface because black people get free like chicken at McDonald's or some shit.
Hey, don't talk to my about my prime minister like that.
But it all culminated in this tweet from Puffed Cactus. And it says, because troons are either A, autogynephilics who, due to porn addiction, autogynephilics due to porn addiction, or B, homosexual transsexuals twisted by being sexually assaulted as children. You are clearly AGP. You are twisted by porn no matter how much you deny it. Does anyone in this chat know where these two theories come from?
A man whose last name is Blanchard, whose first name I cannot remember.
Yes.
He's
Not
a
Cody, I think
bastard.
it's a different person.
It's the Blanchard typology, and the letter B in this person's tweet is also how people tried to explain for decades young males being being homosexual. Like, it's the entire reason why they thought conversion therapy worked, because they thought it was a learned behavior through sexual assault. But Blanchard's typology was a complete failure. Everyone holds it up as, the perfect way of discussing everything about trans and transitioning and whether you're attracted to men or attracted to women. But Blanchard quite literally only studied pretty much homosexual males that had transitioned and were not involved in prostitution.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
He
I figure that's the sample that is not involved in prostitution is probably bigger than the sample that is, unless there's like
Yeah.
no at
maybe.
when he studied it, the uh the number of people who had transitioned that weren't in prostitution was much smaller than the group that was in prostitution. But he quite literally would not accept certain study applicants. So he wouldn't take anyone that was bisexual. It was very rare for him to take anyone that was attracted to the quote opposite sex. So trans women who were attracted to women.
What was the
Um,
rationale behind that?
He
huh?
was a
Like,
bitch, too scared to get out of his comfort
was
zone.
he just specifically studying the one thing, or like, because it would make sense if he's looking
No.
into that one
So
thing that he just.
so if he, and I don't have it on me, I should get it, but I'm not going to right now. But if you read the methodology for his study, it's very clear that he set it up in such a manner that the only outcome that he could get from the study was his presumed outcome. That's what he wanted.
So he rigged it. What the fuck?
Yes, he rigged his own study.
Well, that honestly speaking, just to comment on that's 99% of the scientific community. Post
Which,
post Tuskegee, you're
yes,
talking the scientific community as a whole has been very, very, very corrupt when it comes to
Yeah.
doing studies
which
as a whole.
which is why whenever I read a study, I start with the methodology. If it
That's
has a
always the best way.
if it has a solid methodology, I will read through the entire study. But even studies with good methodologies fail because of poor reporting, like poor responses or
Well,
response rates.
well,
Yeah.
just to bring it out like this, you know, you you must remember that the Tuskegee experiments, even though they were considered like this critical thing by the U.S. government,
Mm-hmm.
the Norwegians had conducted similar studies like 40 years prior, and all
Yes.
the information in regards to syphilis, which was the beginning stages of Tuskegee, which Tuskegee also covered other things, but the Norwegians had already done the work, and the U.S. government was, or people within the U.S. government were like, nah, we don't consider that right. We have to do our own study, and it's like, okay, yeah, you guys are dicks. And then of
You just
course, you know,
basically just described the FDA there,
yeah, basically. Well,
but with less syphilis.
well, let's face it, they purposely infected prostitutes and sent
Yeah.
them into prisons. like they they did some dirty ass shit with Tuskegee.
Sounds
And
like
and
the
the problem
CIA in Chicago.
yeah, basically. But that's the point though, is that you have so many people across the board. Now, I have my own opinions when it comes to the whole trans thing, the whole homosexual thing, et cetera, et cetera. I have my own positions on it based on historical data. I look at it from a historical point of view. I don't look at it from a scientific point of view. And the whole point is you realize really fucking quickly that most of these people, they have a bend based on whatever outcome they're trying to produce, period, in a story. The next best example next to Tuskegee was the climate change crowd,
Yeah.
or is the climate change crowd. Because that big old bright fucker in the sky don't give a fuck about your climate study. It don't care.
Yeah. So as of today, puffed cactus is the figurative big dick in this whole scenario. Though the two girls that are pretending to be trans are using big dildos in order
Okay.
to portray themselves as trans. My response to puffed cactus: this is what happens when you're given faulty data provided by pundits and scientists that don't like the outcome of their studies to vary from their expectations. Blanchard's data set are wholly inaccurate, and the sexual assault claim is the exact same shit that people believed caused homosexuality in children decades ago. There are plenty of living adults, male and female, that grew up not being sexually assaulted, that eventually came out as gay, lesbian, or bisexual.
So if I can, just talk about the historical aspect of this that I think a lot of people they miss out on completely because they don't want to talk about it.
Yeah,
The fact of the matter is, you look back at the Greeks and the
Yeah,
Macedonians,
the femboys.
and you realize one key thing, that there was a segment of about 10% of the population that they didn't give a fuck. They were like, "Ooh, bonus hole," you know, they didn't give a fuck.
Based. Also, the
And
Greek citizenship test.
and the fact of the matter is that throughout history there have been societies that have been like that. Period in the story. Now, what we have noticed given the historical data, is that it coincides with a distinct level of prosperity. It coincides with a distinct level of comfort. Because if you look at what happened after the Greek world collapsed, after Alexander's empire fell apart, you realize that all of a sudden, oh, the prosperity's gone, and all of a sudden that population of the Greek people kind of disappeared. Now, 9 times out of 10, I would say it's probably, oh, they, married into a family, had kids, et cetera, et cetera. They were still gay as fuck, but, they had to make something of themselves in order to be able to actually, survive as a unit, because shit went downhill real fucking quick. And the same,
Yes.
and you can see that pattern repeat itself throughout history. A level of prosperity is obtained by a group. There's more and more homosexuals in general, and then all of a sudden that prosperity leaves, and then shit goes back to quote unquote normal. It's just a case of like, the people are there, the prosperity's high, they're going to be more flagrant, they're going to be more out in the open, et cetera, quote unquote coming out of the closet, so to say. Now with the whole trans thing, we can identify many cases across history of dysmorphia just destroying people.
Yes.
I forget the name of the it was one of the Spanish princes. I forget his name off the top of my head. It was during the time period where Mary, Elizabeth, and Mary being in France, and the Old Alliance, and so on and so forth. That whole time period. And one of the Spanish princes, he was full blown bisexual. Like, it was later learned that he was full blown bisexual, had multiple lovers, including men and women. And
All right.
also it was determined through several things that he had written that were later discovered that he suffered from a sense of dysmorphia. He suffered from a sense of he didn't feel like he belonged exactly within himself. Across the board, you look at what people are going through, like men, for example. There's a bunch of guys out there that think like, oh, my dick size, oh my god, this is terrible, I'm so tiny. And then I want to look at them and be like, yo, bitch, get into the gym. You're a fat fuck. You've lost 4 inches based on your fucking body fat, bro. Come on.
Speaking of
Is
weight,
that how that works?
Yeah. Men. So you know the whole joke about fupas.
What the fuck is a fupa?
Never mind. Anyways, point is, the groin area, the pelvic area, is where men deposit fat very heavily. We deposit fat on our bellies, groin, and thighs, whereas women deposit fat on their ass, chest, and thighs. The stomach, funny enough, is actually the last place that women will usually deposit fat, because fat cells can harm a fetus.
Did not know
so
that.
speaking of
So fun fact, ladies, if you're fat, you have a likelihood of having detrimental effects on your kid. Don't be fat.
I don't think they care.
so
One
speaking.
to bring up, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
Oh,
no,
alright,
Dale,
I
shut
like to
up.
say, I'm just the historical example of what you said, dysphoria, or what was the term you used?
Dysphoria.
Gender
sorry.
dysphoria.
I'm surprised.
No,
that
just
you didn't-
dysphoria in general.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sure. I was gonna say, I'm surprised you didn't bring up Elagabalus, the Roman Emperor, the famous or infamous Roman emperor.
Oh yeah, no, him, Nero, Caligula, et cetera, et cetera. Like, it's very common. Like, people feel out of sorts in some form or fashion, and thus it causes incredible damage to the person and then also the society as a whole.
All right.
Okay, so speaking of weight and losing weight, I have successfully hit the 15-pound mark
Nice.
Good job.
today.
All right.
So now I'm back down to what I was at in 2018, 215 pounds.
Doing better than me. You're down to where I was at back in high school.
Where are you at?
I'm like 265 right now.
Dang. Wait, how tall are you?
6 foot.
Yeah, I'm
In
5'5"
white.
now.
Wait, what'd you say, Molly?
I know you're an asshole, so I gotta like fuck with you a little bit.
I no, I didn't hear what you said. I was like, wait, what did you say?
I said you said 6 feet. I said in white, in width.
Oh, oh, okay, okay.
Nicely done.
Yeah, if he spreads out his
I'm not-
arms.
I'm not my dad. I'm not my dad. My dad's a fucking bowling ball. His circumference is probably 6 foot.
Okay, so on the topic of big dicks and people returning to normal, we have this lovely thread from Chuck Ritter absolutely ripping on Jack Murphy.
Jack's just gonna have to sit there and read it from his cuck chair.
Yeah, so who remembers Jack Murphy?
I do.
Mike, do you remember Jack Murphy at all?
Is this the guy with the beard that was on Timcast a few times?
Uh-huh.
And then had the meltdown about it coming out he was a cuck.
See, that's the thing is, I'm like, dude, fucking roll with it. Like, why you been a bitch?
Yeah.
Like, if you're into it, you're into it. Fuck off.
Well, it turns out he thought he was in an open relationship. Or at least he said he was in an open relationship. He never actually participated. He knew that she was fucking around on him.
So is he then just Destiny who lifts weights?
Yeah, sort of. Just a
Yeah,
bit
basically.
fatter.
Murphy ain't that big.
He's got a bit of a pot belly.
He's got like a strongman belly. It's that kind of belly
Yeah.
where it's like, yeah, you're 15% body fat, but it's like nicely packaged.
Yes, I'm aware, and stop thinking about his package, okay? So Jack decided that
Oh.
yesterday he was going to cry about the fact that he gave evidence to Stolen Valor pertaining to questions that he had about Chuck Ritter. And he's claiming that Brian from Stolen Valor attacked him both publicly, or in public, both professionally and personally. Dude, you don't have a professional or personal life to begin with. You destroyed it all when you decided to merge the two of them into one.
He's got that combo life going on.
Yeah.
Yep.
But Jack has a history of being a dick, as evidenced by his interview and with Sydney Watson and Elisha Schaefer. Elisha Schaefer is a bitch, but I like Sydney.
Mhm.
But Chuck came out with this very nice thread saying, you wrote an article about me that turned out to be bogus. You were presented with all the evidence proving it for a while, but chose to do nothing while 12 other tabloids copied your article and smeared me for years. Your parent company removed your article to avoid a lawsuit. Then you threatened to sue me. There is zero personal accountability here. There is much like your friendly fire, or this is much like your friendly fire incident in Ranger Regiment. You talk about it, but you say, but I know I made the best decision I could as a young E4 with the info I had. That's not accountability. Now you're going to lie about Anthony? Anthony posted the truth after doing his own in-depth investigation, just like Julio Rosas 11 did an in-depth investigation. They both reached out to you and you told them you could do nothing. Okay, so a slight correction. His name isn't Brian, his name is Anthony. Anthony is the one that runs Stolen Valor 1 on Twitter.
So I just real quick, so I could recap for myself a little bit. So basically, Chuck Ritter,
Prior
says
service
on
Navy
Twitter.
SEAL.
Well, it says on Twitter he's a former Green Beret. So
Oh, sorry. I got that wrong.
yeah, so former Green Beret, you know, Jack Murphy apparently put out something saying that he wasn't or something like that, and then a bunch of fucking tabloids rolled with it.
Yeah.
Honestly speaking, I'm gonna say this right now, like from the perspective of calling a dude out until it's actually acknowledged if actually he did serve, I get it. The whole stolen valor bullshit that's been going on the past fucking couple years
Mm-hmm.
has really been predicated on one thing, and it is people have been hyper fixated on the last thing that they actually believe in, which is the military. And it's really just come to a head of, oh hey, I've got a scoop that could potentially fucking take this guy down for being a lying piece of shit. I'm gonna jump on it, and then all of a sudden it blows up in your fucking face. It's just like it's the same thing that, funny enough, Scott Ritter. A lot of people claiming like, oh, he was never in Iraq, he was never this, never that, and then UN guys coming out and being like, yeah, he was our inspector. Like, like here are pictures of him in the Iraq Ministry of Defense. Like, shut the fuck up.
Molly, it's time to drink water.
What do you mean?
Drink water.
Why?
Because water's good for you.
Because
Thank
you're a
you for-
dehydrated piece of shit.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me. Like, I don't drink enough water, but I'm just confused.
You drink more water. As should everyone listening. We're all dehydrated too.
Yes, you should be drinking at least 2 liters of water a day. 2.
I thought it was
It
3.
should be like
Up
4
that
liters
up,
of water a day.
yeah, up that shit to like 2 gallons bare minimum.
I said at least
It's
2.
hard.
It's 2 for people who are sedentary.
Wow.
I tried 3 and it's pretty intense.
Guzzle more water.
The more active
It'll be
the-
practice for other things you'll be guzzling.
the
Wow.
more active you are,
Wow.
the more water you need.
So fun fact about me, I actually have such a low sodium diet that I have to specifically take days where I consume an excess amount of sodium just to be able to retain water properly.
Huh.
It's like, oops. Like, hey, why am I not retaining any water? Oh yeah, that's right. I don't eat salt very much.
So part of me working out and losing weight has been getting 2 liters of water because the minimum for people who are sedentary is 1,875 milliliters. So 2 liters is more than that minimum.
How has the weight loss been going, by the way? You do look a bit better.
I hit the 15-pound mark, so I have dropped 15 pounds in the past 2 months.
Damn, it's pretty good.
And
How
that's
many total pounds is the goal?
Before I'm at a place where they will do surgery, I've got 35 pounds, but that's the top weight that they want me at. Like even a tenth of a pound over, they're not touching me. I want to be back down to 150 preferably because I know I will never be back to my 18-year-old weight.
I mean,
It's not like I can weigh. It's
now,
not like I can weigh 97 pounds again.
Yeah, it sounds like too little.
Yeah, I'm sitting here and I'm like, wait, you guys can be under 200?
Keep in mind, you're also dealing with a lot of very short people,
Well, true.
right? Like, I remember at my thinnest, I think I was like 185, and I was like a stick, which is because again I'm 6'4", so just physically you can't get that. You can't get
Jesus
down
Christ,
that
you
quick.
fucking giant.
Yeah.
I
So
when I was with Dale, when he came here, I'm 5'6", and the heaviest I was when he was here, because he fed me McDonald's every day, I was
not,
178
don't blame
pounds.
me for that. We all know who's responsible for the constant McDonald's.
Yeah, and I still looked good back then, bitch.
Yeah. Well, debate. You yourself admitted that you were fat.
Yeah, well, I was.
Nobody can play the Scott Steiner "he's fat" or "she's fat" gifs.
so
Actually,
when
it'd probably
when
be less mean to play the "he's fat" one because the "she's fat" one is not only she's ugly, she's fat, and I'm not
so
going to call you ugly.
when I was 18 years old and graduating high school, I weighed 97 pounds. I immediately got a job at McDonald's. And
Ugh, bad
McDonald's,
idea.
no, it
No?
was not a bad idea because no matter how much I ate there, I never gained weight. It wasn't
How?
until I had a very active metabolism. So all throughout high school, uh the only things that I would eat and drink were pizza and soda. Like those were my daily staple.
And yet you were 98 pounds instead of like 398
97 at the age of 18. I weighed before 18, so at the age of 17 I weighed 92 pounds. At the age of 16 I weighed 89 pounds. 15 I weighed probably about 75 pounds, and then at 14, as you know, right after I had come into high school, or no, yeah, right after I had come into high school, so right at the beginning of the year, I weighed 45 pounds.
Hmm.
It was not until I signed up, I signed my enlistment papers for the Marine Corps and did 3 months of the delayed entry program that I actually started gaining weight. I went from 97 pounds to 102 pounds. By the time I got to boot camp, I weighed 107. And by the time I got out of boot camp, I weighed 117.
How does that make sense? Like you were actively like working out in boot camp and shit.
I was gaining muscle.
Oh,
What was the lowest weight that the military had wanted you to be? Like, I'm assuming we got there,
I
you were
I
underweight.
had I had to get an underweight waiver.
huh.
How do you get a waiver for your weight like that?
They say, okay, well, this person is as physically fit as they can be at this height and weight, and we believe we can get them to a proper weight. Even at 117, I was still considered underweight because at 5'7" in the Marine Corps, they want you weighing at least 135.
Hmm. Did they eventually bring you up to that weight? Or
Yeah, once I got to the fleet and I stopped working out with everyone, I started gaining weight. But it was all fat.
well,
But
basically not
if
caring
there's
whether it's muscle or fat, but just wanting you to make weight.
if there's anything that I've learned from that period between when I got out and now, where I gained all of this weight, it's simply that I can have a very active metabolism again. I just have to walk.
Yeah, no shit. That's why obesity is like less in Europe than it is in the US. The US was like made for cars, while Europe was made for walking and bicycles.
And so I try to walk every day, but there are periods of time where I can only walk once a week, maybe.
I have an idea for you. Can
Huh.
you buy like a electric bicycle so you can like
No.
pedal when you want to exercise? No?
No. Can't afford it.
Aw.
And I've got
Is
nowhere to
is it
put it.
is it
It's a
just because
bicycle.
I've got nowhere to put it.
it does take? If you've never seen those, Molly, they do take up some space.
Dale, I've used one to do delivery and then I had like two
Uh,
more
uh,
for Nova's
what
deliveries.
we're talking about is a stationary bike, not one of those.
Oh,
Like a
no,
stationary
no.
bike is
And
not the same as like an electric bike you use to drive around town.
even
It's
even
using
even
both.
even one of those, I don't have the space in the house.
Aw.
But is it mostly a scheduling thing? Like you don't have time to do the walking, or
So I it takes me a couple hours in the morning to get up and go because I'm getting older. And so the only time that I can work out or walk generally is while I'm at work waiting to get unloaded in Aurora.
Hmm.
But because freight to my normal delivery is sparse right now, um, they've been sending me places where you're not allowed to get out of your truck except for to put the paperwork inside and then get back in the truck.
seems kind of dumb of them to
Molly,
do.
mute your
Can't
mic
you
while
just
you're
like
chewing.
Oh, sorry. Can't you just like go and like walk around, like stretch on your way to the paperwork place?
No, I can do that at my delivery in Aurora, but if I'm going anywhere else, you're not allowed to get out of the truck except for to take paperwork in and get back in the truck.
And I can't confirm that because Pepsi changed that policy because they allow people to like be able to get out and stretch and do whatever while they were waiting to get unloaded. And one guy almost got ran over by the yard dog, so they were like, "Okay, no, stay in your trucks."
Yeah,
What is the yard dog?
he's the one running the tiny fucking cab over that's, only on one side of the truck or directly in the center of the truck.
It's a smaller tractor that's meant for moving the trailers in and out of the dock and the yard and whatnot.
When it comes to obesity, especially in trucking, it's all because shippers stopped letting drivers get out of their trucks.
Was there a reasoning? What was the reasoning behind that?
Because they started and they have continued ever since to hire idiots.
Hmm.
So like Mike said, at Pepsi, they changed the policy. They no longer allow drivers to get out of trucks because one of their own drivers, one of their own yard dogs, almost ran over someone.
Quick question. What do you guys
Yes.
prefer, Pepsi or Coca-Cola?
Oh my
Coke.
god.
I don't drink soft drinks.
Fucking love Pepsi though.
If it ain't Dr. Pepper, it ain't worth it.
I
Dr.
haven't had
Pepper is fucking expensive.
I haven't had soda in 2 months.
Also, there's a Coca-Cola version which is cherry flavored. It tastes exactly like Dr. Pepper.
You're talking about Mr. Pibb, which I also enjoy.
Hmm.
It's actually really
prefer
funny
beer.
you bring it up. I have a crippling Dr. Pepper addiction. It's probably the only addiction I have, and it's definitely one of the reasons why I've stonewalled on the weight loss. Definitely.
Um,
Yeah,
Beer
you
is
should
better
definitely
than
drink your
soda.
calories.
Just saying.
Warhound, can you check the chat in this channel?
Better not be gay.
There's about a 50-50% chance.
I know it's Molly. I should assume.
This is what I was
Oh.
talking about.
Oh, Cherry Coke? No, Cherry Coke is not anything like Dr. Pepper. Try Mr. Pibb.
I don't have that.
Yeah, Mr. Pibb is what is Coke's version
It's
of Dr. Pepper.
it's no longer Mr. Pibb. It has not been since before 2007. It's Pibb Extra.
Okay, first off, I
Look.
call it Mr. Pibb.
It
will always be Mr. Pibb.
They took the man out of Mr. Pibb.
Yes.
I bought these two. Look at them.
Right. There's a Dr. Pepper cherry. I thought Dr. Pepper was already cherry.
It is. It's like double cherry. And I don't think I tasted the difference.
No, Dr. Pepper has a cherry extract in it. Dr. Pepper cherry has actual grenadine in it.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, so moving on to our next dick. It is not the person who posted the picture. It is the person in the picture. Let me go ahead and get this pulled up. So, Libertarian Goth posted this picture. Wonderful fucking picture. Talking about it's from Roz Alert. Brazilian Supreme Court says anyone using VPN to access Twitter or X is subject to fines up to $8,874 a day. And then this bitch. Male PR media. Well, God de Kettle is in Brazil and he's still posting on X. Think on what you just did. Like, think about what you just said to the world.
Hey, look at me. Don't do business with me ever.
What?
That-
He should
that's what
follow
that
the
says.
laws of his country. Follow the laws of his country. Really. Really.
Your sense,
So
your sense of freedom is pale as your skin.
This
So-
this
so-
seems
one of the
like a
one of the
person
best
who would
lines
be-
out of the movie, by the way.
Huh.
What movie is that?
Patriot.
Oh, it's been a long ass time since I've seen that movie. This seems like the sort of person who would report on their family members to the Stasi.
Oh,
Like,
Well-
definitely oh, this person down the street from me is having a cookout during COVID. You know.
Yeah. Mhm.
well,
Same thing,
I
basically.
I did post her I did post her okay, no, I did not. I posted her account because after she did that,
Oh, she probably got brigaded like a motherfucker.
well, she
Because
went
that-
private for a bit. Okay, so she unprivated herself today. Like just in between the time that I looked at that picture and now, which has been probably about 3 hours.
Yeah, it was private when I checked when you first posted it as well. So this is maybe in the last hour or two.
Well, look at her. Look at her handle, Mally PR Media. She's obviously a PR expert of some sort, and
Yes,
it's
well,
probably her business. And this right here is literally the exact opposite of what a PR person should be doing.
she also has changed her bio because between the time I last checked it and now, at the beginning of her bio it said MAGA.
Oh yeah. Yeah, now it's
Uh,
changed. Now it's anti-manga. It is interesting.
Let's see.
Well, that tells me she's a fucking leftist that was posing. That tells me that.
Her last tweet was just her saying, "Someone doxed my Act Blue donations like they were a secret." So, Act Blue donor.
Yeah, poser.
Yeah.
No, and here's the hilarious part about this. You know, in relation to the law that Brazil's pushing. You look at what happened. This judge down in Brazil pulls the bullshit he does, and then not even within 24 hours, like within a 24-hour span, I should say.
Yeah.
Kamala Harris is talking about shutting down X on a federal level,
Yeah. Oh,
and
by the
it's
way,
like,
Erica, check what she just posted. I just put it in the chat. Take a look at the audacity of what she just said after saying that.
Oh, let's see. Oh yeah, I just ran across that.
Oh.
So it says,
Yeah.
"Let me be crystal clear. I stand with the people of Brazil. Brazilians protesting and taking their voices to the streets in protest of dictator Alexandre de Moraes. He banned X and they are calling for his impeachment on September 7th. Stay safe out there, protesters." Yet you want them to follow the laws of the country.
hey, what did I say?
There's a massive shift between what he should follow the laws of his country and, you know, I stand with the people of Brazil. How about some
Yes,
accountability?
you're right.
What this is that they realized, and this is something I pointed out to people over the course of the past couple days, is that this is them attacking our dragon. This is them attempting to slay our dragon. So you have big tech, you have little tech. Little tech bought Twitter, turning it into X. If you understand what X actually stands for, you realize it's the most brilliant fucking thing ever. If you don't understand, you're confused by it and you don't like it. But the point is that X was, or Twitter was their cash cow when it came to PR, and they lost it to little tech. It was one of the biggest blows that big tech has sustained ever.
Huh.
And now you turn and you see Mark Zuckerberg coming out and basically saying, and maybe I was kind of wrong about a lot of this shit. Now, I think that also has to do with the fact that he's been hanging out with UFC guys quite a bit, and a lot of the UFC guys are pretty pro little tech. They don't like big tech, and he's been hanging out with those UFC guys, and all of a sudden, Mark Zuckerberg's changing his tune quite a bit.
It's awfully strange that all these people start lifting weights and doing martial arts, and then suddenly they start becoming more right wing.
Well,
It's really
Yeah.
odd that it keeps happening.
I tell people this all the time. You start to learn the world is a very finite place once you start getting punched in the face. But the point is that across the board, th- the the state is freaking the fuck out because they're losing ground. They've lost so much ground, even. Like, they don't even have control over TikTok anymore. They actually had a pretty good footing in TikTok for a long time, and they lost it because of the fact that uh, X went, or X was birthed out of the downfall of Twitter, and now the people over on TikTok who are even more radical than the state have
Really?
taken over that platform.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
you really have a case of, like, people, like, everybody wants to be like, oh, things are not, nearly as bad as they show on the internet. And I'm like, no, the internet is the battlefield right now, bros.
So for those of our listeners who may not watch Goats, Guns, and Gold podcast, can you elaborate on what the difference is? What Little Tech is?
Okay, so I'm going to put it in a very minimalistic way. If you guys, I recommend going and checking out Tom Luongo over at the Gold Goats and Guns podcast. He has done multiple deep dives into this topic habitually at this point in time. But basically, the concept is that you have big tech, the big government sponsored companies that are getting this massive amount of government money to do their thing. And basically, the government has a back door. There's literally a portal that government agencies can access in Facebook, Instagram, used to be in Twitter, it's no longer in Twitter, and a few other things. Um, but the point is that they are getting all this money, and as a result of getting this money, the government has a back door into them. Little tech is the
Hmm.
companies that have basically said, no, we're not giving you that access. We don't want your money. We're going to do our own thing. Now, little tech, funny enough, includes one Peter Thiel, who, if you don't know who Peter Thiel is, he is the former co founder of PayPal, which is why they refer to it as the
Mm.
PayPal Mafia, because you have Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, JD Vance. You seeing a pattern here? All these guys are involved in this circle of people. And the big thing about Peter Thiel is that his company Palantir is probably one of the most important companies that the government is currently utilizing right now. Basically, when it comes to intelligence gathering, Palantir is the de facto gold star, and nobody can compete with them. And here's the thing is, Peter Thiel didn't sell his system to the government. He leased it to the government. They have the ability to use it. They don't own it. He still has full control over it. Thus, one of the things that's pivotal in this battle of, big tech versus little tech, you know, little tech being the populist side of things, big tech being the government side of things, is the fact that Peter Thiel basically has a backdoor into the government because they are using his systems. He still has full control over them. And thus, they're sitting there like, oh, hey, we can do all this stuff. And Peter Thiel's sitting there laughing, like, yeah, I can do it too. Now, a big thing in regards to the Brazil stuff is that this is them attacking our dragon, and this is how Tom refers to it. Is, when you're fighting a dragon, you would like to have a fucking dragon on your side. You're not gonna piss off the other dragon just for the sake of being against the dragon. You're gonna be like, hey, Mr. Dragon, would you like would you like his gold, because we'll give you his gold if you help us fight him. And of course the dragon's gonna say, oh yeah, I'll help you. This is them attacking our dragon because Brazil starts banning X. Kamala Harris comes out and says she's going to ban X. The EU has been going after X ever since Elon Musk bought it. And you start to look at this now. In the case of the Brits benefit because the Brits want Twitter back, because the Twitter was the number one vector that the Brits used to influence things. The EU wants Twitter back in their hands because they need to be able to quash this the dissension in the EU, because right now they can't. X told the German government go fuck themselves.
Based.
When has the German government ever been told by Twitter to go fuck themselves? Never. At all. Period. In the case of X, they got told go pound sand. And what you have is that the German or the EU is sitting there like, oh shit, like if this continues, like people don't know this, but the EU has been in a constant state of riots for the past fucking 3 years. Things have not let up at all. Like, you might not see it being reported on much, but go to downtown Paris and go see the fucking riots, boys. Shit has been wild. And they need control. That's what this all comes down to. Is it comes down to they want control so they can influence the narrative and thus control what people are seeing and hearing. In the case of this bitch right here, to be completely frank, the fact that she's an obvious Democrat donor on top of being you know being pro state, in the case of being like, oh, this guy's still posting. It's like, oh, obviously this motherfucker or this bitch right here, she's got an angle. And then of course her whole being like oh, I stand with the people of Brazil. This is her backtracking. This is her attempting to save face because she probably lost a shit ton of clients with that tweet.
Now, I don't know how many she lost, but she has now said that she's not right wing. No matter what wing she is, she believes in government and she thinks government can do no wrong.
Oh, very obviously. To be completely honest, I can tell you this right now. Given what she said and what we see here, she's probably a Nikki Haley supporter.
Probably.
She'd go down on Dick Cheney any day.
She was one of those fake Nikki Haley supporters who's trying to influence, trying to get Nikki Haley to be the nominee.
Oh, I doubt. So here's the thing. A lot of people don't know this about the Nikki Haley situation. Nikki Haley, the reason why Trump basically boofed the idea that Nikki Haley was going to have anything to do with his government was because Nikki Haley was put into play as a means of stopping the populace from taking control of the federal government again.
Yeah.
Because if Nikki Haley were to get elected, because here's the thing.
Back to neocon bullshit.
Well, here's the thing, is that getting rid of Biden was planned. And this is the big thing a lot of people need to understand. They were going to get rid of Biden, but they also didn't want Harris. Harris was put in as the basically like, okay, we have to give it to somebody. The gay dude isn't going to fucking connect well with the Midwest, and we need somebody who can rally together the base. So let's put in the fucking dumb bitch. Nikki Haley, on given July 13th, or yeah, July 13th, was it the 13th or the 23rd that the assassination occurred? Or the assassination attempt occurred. I forget. I believe it was the 13th.
Yes. It was also our last podcast, I believe.
Oh yeah, it was. I wasn't there, unfortunately. But the point is that the Nikki Haley was supposed to be the nominee. Trump was supposed to be dead. Nikki Haley was supposed to come in, be somber, be grief stricken, etc., accept the nomination, and then proceed to have Harris lose the election, so then Nikki Haley could come in and replace Kamala Harris. Policy wise, Nikki Haley's not much different than Kamala Harris,
Correct.
and
All right.
thus that's where this all comes from.
So I found this picture of male, whatever the fuck her name is. There's
Mally.
the MAGA, Mally. There's
Yeah.
the MAGA before the social commentator on X,
Yep.
and now it's gone.
Yeah, no, again, she's probably a poser. She's probably you have to understand that a lot of people don't they haven't really picked up on it, but there are a lot of these posers out there that are Democrat donors or Democrat agents who have been working um that have been working tirelessly to sow chaos and discord within the movement as a whole to try to get this, retarded view of MAGA put together. A lot of
Yeah.
people don't realize it, but most of the MAGA guys are seriously they're just populous. They're not right wing, they're not left wing, they're just populous.
Yeah.
If you understand what populism actually undertales, then you understand, like, oh yeah, no, this is the way we should run the country. This is the way politics should be in the United States. But hey, people are retarded.
Listen, if I wanted to vote alongside and the same as everyone else, I would have just stayed in the fucking Marine Corps.
Well, here's the key difference, and this is it's not about voting alongside people and going with the flow. It's about, like, hey, this is a problem. We need to fix it. Let's put the guy in that's going to be able to fix it. That's where populism really comes into play, because what you have to understand about politics in the United States is the Eurification of it. We it's referred to, Tom Luongo refers to him as the British remnant, and there's a lot of ties. Me and Stoner, actually, I was talking to Stoner the other day, yesterday actually. I gave him a good rundown of, like, the different connections that go into play with this. And the British remnant's whole thing is that they want to be just like the Brits. They want the king, they want the parliament, they want the House of Lords, they want the House of Commons, they want all of that, but they have to build it within the American mind, the American zeitgeist. And so how do they do it? Oh, get these senators that never leave office. Get these the House of Commons. Get the people that represent the House of Lords or the Senate's views on things, et cetera, et cetera. In the case of the presidency, get the people that are dynastic, like, for example,
Bush,
all the people who,
Clinton.
Bush, Clinton, et cetera, et cetera. Get all the people that are dynastic into it. And the
If I
whole
wanted
point is,
royal families, Jesus.
yeah, well, and again, it's the Eurification of the American political system, where you have to remember, go back pre 1860s, because this really started hardcore in the 1860s, and not in the way that a lot of people understand it to have occurred. But you go back pre 1960 or 1860s, and you realize really fucking quick, like, oh, hey, American politics was, hey, what benefits the ability for people to fucking make a living? What benefits people's ability to actually spread their wings and actually fucking do something good? That was the majority of politics. And then every so often you would have a few years where the stodgy ass motherfuckers would get into power and they would be doing things to help their buddies and et cetera, et cetera. Cornelius Vanderbilt. If you guys if you've never heard his story, Cornelius Vanderbilt is a great example of a guy coming in and saying, "No, fuck you. I'm going to do what I want and I'm going to fucking get it done and I'm going to make you look like fools." Cornelius Vanderbilt is great. I love them. I love his story. And then with the 1860s, with the US Civil War, most people don't realize this, but the Brits and the French were using it as a means to reconquer their lost colonies. That was the whole goal with their intervention on the side of the Confederacy. The Confederacy, there's a lot of like, if you actually read it and you actually go into it deep, you realize like the Confederacy had the mindset of the American way. Like, no, you can't tell me what the fuck to do. But then the Brits and the French came in the back door and said, "Hey, let's make a deal." And some shady ass motherfuckers in the Confederate government then proceeded to try to start making deals. And then ironically enough, it was Russia that came to our rescue. Kind of weird how that works out. I
Yeah, a
wonder
little
why the
bit.
Brits I wonder why the Brits hate the Russians so much. I wonder.
I
Yeah.
wonder.
It definitely couldn't just be like the entirety of the 19th century, but it. Crimean War.
Um,
So Stoner
But,
just posted a question.
um,
yes.
I-
yeah.
Is it cool if I read it off?
Go ahead.
All right. To the people who say America can't afford to be isolationist because if we do, we lose free trade, Europe falls to Russia, and Asia falls to Chinese hegemony, in addition to America losing superpower status and will be open to foreign aggression from Russia and China. So here's the thing is first and foremost, Chinese hegemony over Asia. That is the default that is the status quo of Asia. Most people don't want to acknowledge it. They don't want to realize it because of our interests in the region. But China has always held dominion over Asia, period, end of fucking story. But they've also had to pay respects to the Russians. The Russians and the Chinese are not in bed together. They are merely two people sitting across the table making deals.
Yeah,
They,
like
that's how
I'm sure you know that in again the late I think it was 18th or sorry 19th century Russia annexed a bunch of China, a bunch of northern China, and
yes.
the Chinese still don't like that. They haven't gotten over that.
Yeah, well, there a huge section of the Russian Far East is considered Manchuria.
Exactly.
And the whole
Like
thing is
Vladivostok and so on is it used to be part of China.
yeah, and people fail to understand that those two, they're not in bed together. They're merely doing deals.
Mhm.
And if truly if we were in the world of empires once again, they would fight. They would
Oh
fight
yeah.
hard. Now, in the case of American isolationism, American isolationism is the default status quo of America. We operate within our bubble because we're so removed from everything. We don't have to be concerned with worldly affairs usually.
No, and that's mostly because we have all of the resources within our lands that we need to be
Not even
competitive.
not even just our lands. All of the Americas.
Yeah.
This is a key thing that a lot of people don't understand is during the height of American isolation, we had Canada, the United States, Mexico, and all of South America basically under lock. We
And the
could
world.
basically go to any government and say, "We want this." And they would sell it to us because they knew damn well that if they didn't, there would be problems.
Mhm.
And across the board, the concept of free trade is poisonous. It's a poison apple. A lot of people don't understand that the whole concept of free trade, if you were in a world of me, like say you had a bunch of me's running the governments of the world. then yeah, you could have free trade. But you don't have that. We don't have we don't have a bunch of governments that think alike, that have the same interests, that have the same opinions on things, so on and so forth. So free trade's a poison apple that no matter what, there's going to be somebody that is interested in something that they're going to use that free trade to get at you in some form or fashion. Look at the Canadians, for example. The Canadians have been using free trade as an excuse to flood our markets, and it's just been within the past few years that we finally got it under wraps. But they've flooded our markets with cheap lumber, for example. I'm just going to use lumber as the primary example here. With cheap lumber as a means to monopolize the North American lumber market. And then moving over to Europe and the whole quote unquote fall to the Russians. When have the Russians marched into Europe? Name one
Well, I
time.
mean, do we count the Soviet Union as the Russians, or do we just count them as
No, we don't count them
evil
as the Soviet
communists?
Union.
All right, fair enough.
Let's see. There was a period during World War One where they
Nah,
were
that was
attacking
that was
Poland.
no World War One was Poland was part of the Russian Empire.
Yeah, there
Okay.
was no Poland at the time.
No, I'm thinking of the wrong time.
World War Two, which that was the Soviets.
No, I'm still thinking of that's still the wrong time.
Oh, are you talking about the 1800s with the partition of Poland?
Yes.
Okay, but here's the thing: if you listen to the French, to the British, to the Germans, and a few other countries over there, Poland's not part of Europe. The Slavic world is not part of Europe. They don't consider Slavs Europeans. So, hell, I have the perfect book right here, Pan Europa by Kalergi. You know, Mister, I want to euthanize all the blacks of the world. Like literally, that's what the guy
Ah, yes,
promotes in this book.
Right. That's the
Seems to be a
clergy plan,
common
right?
theme.
Mind you, this is the guy who's responsible for forming for laying the foundation for the European Union. The European Union is this guy's brainchild. So you have a case of they don't view the Slavic world as Europe. So in reality, you know, that talking about Poland as European, the Europeans don't even consider Poland Europe. Now, you look at things further from then,
Oh, sorry.
the
Can I interrupt
Russians
1 second?
go ahead, sorry.
You said to find a example of in history of the Russians invading Europe. The Great Northern War under Peter the Great, when because even if they don't consider Slavs European, they consider Scandinavians
Oh,
European.
you're talking about the war between Russia and Sweden?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but here's the key thing. What other war did that coincide with? That coincide
Um.
that coincided with the Pomeranian War,
hmm,
which also included the Prussians,
All right.
which and that's the point, is the Russians themselves have never pushed further west than Poland because they don't see a purpose behind it. The Russians have never truly pushed outside of the Slavic world because they are Slavic. They don't want to be in the European world. They want to be the Slavic world. And that's the point. Is the Russians have never pushed to invade Europe. The Soviets, you can make the argument, but the Soviets weren't the Russians.
All right.
There's
They
a
they
reason
wanted global
there's
commerce.
a reason why right now in Russia there are billboards that have a picture of Tsar Nicholas II that read um something along the lines of "We're sorry, Your Majesty,"
Yeah.
because people are starting to realize, like, oh fuck, like we fucked up. We shouldn't have done what we've done. and people are starting to realize their mistakes. Because here's the thing, and this is a discussion that I know Erica might find annoying from her point of view. We, as the Americans, have an unhealthy relationship with the idea of freedom, liberty, and all this. We think of it from an absolutism mindset, and the rest of the world doesn't at all. The Europeans, they don't think of it from that perspective. The Asians don't think of it from that perspective. The Africans don't think about it from that perspective. The only group of people that you can find in the world that actually kind of think of it from our perspective are the South Americans. Oh, wait, the one group of people that we kind of get along with. And
So I'm gonna stop you there for a second because Americans generally don't actually believe in freedom.
Yeah.
well, depends. Are you talking about the Europhiles that they view it from the European perspective, or are you
I'm
talking about the
I'm I'm
actual?
I'm talking throughout the history of the US, we have not truly believed in freedom. Now there are the 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 masterminds, particularly John Locke, but even John Locke didn't truly believe in freedom because he based his entire philosophy on the idea that government must exist.
Well, and again, we also established that John Locke's mentality on government was mainly from the perspective of an arbiter. It was, this is why when you come to the founding of the US federal government, it was, okay, we're here to regulate interstate trade and we're here to maintain common defense. Those
Ew,
were the two
regulate.
those were the two uh those were the two positions that the federal government had when it was first formed. And Molly, you have to understand the term regulate in the context of the time period, to keep orderly. It was
For
to
I
Yes.
example,
keep
mean,
for example, a well-regulated militia
an orderly militia.
exists.
Yeah,
like
But
the
no,
Wild West though, that worked.
even after the immediate standing up of the US federal government, the US federal courts, they started with civil asset forfeiture. Now, while it may have been a good idea at the time, given the situation where someone left a boat with barrels full of whiskey on a harbor, um, it has since
I'd
been
say
perverted
that.
into
oh
just
yeah,
present day. The simple fact of the matter is because the government existed in the first place, it gave way to all of the abuses that we suffer now.
well, and I will agree and disagree at the same time on that. Because, like, for example, you look at the situation with Chevron. Chevron deference was put into play because people thought, hey, we can reduce our workload if we just defer to the agencies. And then the agencies took that inch and they turned it into 10 miles. And
Yes.
now that has those 10 miles have been taken back, and including that inch, and the agencies have been told, oh no, now you have to run everything through us. Fuck the workload. Now you have to run everything by us, because if you don't, we're going to boof your asses to kingdom come. And but again, it goes to the wider scope. If you look at the rest of the world, to them, we have an unhealthy relationship with this idea of freedom. And for Europe, NATO has a somewhat soft-spoken mantra: keep the Americans in, keep the Germans down, and keep the Russians out. And it's not the idea that most people think it is. what it is keep the Americans involved in Europe. Don't let them re-isolate. Keep the Germans down so they can never be a threat again, because they're the one group that is capable of conquering Europe. And then keep the Russians out of Europe. But the problem is the Russians don't want to be in Europe. They haven't wanted to be in Europe even during the Soviet times. There was back and forth on whether or not, like, hey, do we actually want to fight the Europeans? Like, what are we doing? And it really comes down to, once people start learning this stuff, they start actually diving a little deeper, they start getting under the surface. It's kind of like a wart. Like honestly speaking, think of it from the perspective of a wart. If you just scrape the surface, you're not getting rid of the wart. You have to dig in. You have to get the bacteria out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this all comes down to, is being able to get deep enough that you can be like, oh shit, the Brits are a bunch of dirty lying bastards and need to be sunk. The French are a bunch of colonialist bastards that said they got rid of their colonies, but in reality they didn't. They just came up with a clever way to, keep their colonies. And maybe we should let the Germans burn Europe.
Based.
Now, in the case of the Russians, sorry, Poland. If Russia wants your ass, I'm going to let them have you. The Baltic states? Fuck you guys. Whatever.
Stoner says, with how England, France, and Germany have been infringing on their citizens' civil liberties and rights, we ought to cut them off and leave NATO. Well, that's probably never going to happen.
Actually, that's where I disagree with you on that, because this was part of the discussion yesterday that I had with Stoner. The reason why the Europeans are freaking out about the US right now and Ukraine is because no matter which way the US goes in the election, we're out of Ukraine. But the key thing is if Kamala Harris wins, she's going to stay in NATO. If Trump wins, he's leaving NATO. And that's the key thing that a lot of people are banking on in Europe. Like they're like, "Oh my god, we must make sure that Kamala Harris wins, because if Trump wins, we lose everything. If Kamala Harris wins, at least then we can use the money from the US to filter into our economies so we can support Ukraine."
When it comes down to it, I have no doubt that people want to leave. I have no doubt that Trump is going to want to withdraw us from NATO. But I don't think he after his last term, I don't think he's got the fucking balls. I don't think he's got them.
So, I guess my main question is what is required to leave NATO? Because NATO is a treaty, so I don't think the executive can just unilaterally pull out without the consent of the fucking uniparty controlled legislature.
No.
Yeah, that's not true at all.
It isn't? Can
Bush
the executive
and Obama put that precedent into place. Bush withdrew from the ABM treaty, the anti-ballistic missile treaty, and Obama removed us from the intermediate ballistic missile treaty. I forget what that the IBM, the intermediate ballistic missile treaty.
Yeah, but you also have to remember that those were uniparty candidates.
Oh yeah, no, yes, you're 100% correct.
So
but the point is,
they're not gonna do shit against the executive when the executive does what they fucking want.
But that's the point, though, is that they've put the precedent into place. It's kind of like with the whole situation with the House. the Democrats put, or the Uniparty, I should say, put the precedent into place that they could just do swapperino on the Speaker of the House. That they could just be like, oh, we can just cycle through. We can just do whatever the hell we want. And now we're in the position where if things go the way that we think they're going to go for this next election, the House is never going to impeach Trump if he makes the move to get rid of NATO, to pull us out of NATO. And the Senate's not going to be able to do anything because if they can't get the House to come on board, then they have nothing to play.
Why do you think they can't get the House to come on board? Like, it's already likely going to be a very small majority for whichever side has the House. And you really think they can't pull a few of the fucking rhinos to vote for an impeachment?
So
Then,
a lot of
like,
a lot of the rhinos are retiring this year,
true, but
or
not all.
they're retiring this session. Also, on top of that, we're looking at potentially about a 10 seat lead or so.
Remember, just because they're rhinos doesn't mean that they can't also be replaced by rhinos.
That is true.
Well, Republicans in name only. And honestly speaking, I hate using the term rhino because it's like, no, it's just, if you understand what the Republicans are, this is why I love the move that Trump made with RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard, because it creates a unity ticket. It creates a ticket that is literally unsaleable. There is no possible way for Trump to lose on a legitimate level at this point in time. Because if you look at the metrics of what RFK had, you look at the support that Tulsi Gabbard had back in 2016, or in 20, was she 2016 or 2020? I forget.
2020.
2020.
2020. Yeah, thank you. If you look at all the metrics that are in play right now, it is simply a fact that Trump should win by at least a 2 to 3 point margin. Now,
Well,
the wider that margin gets, by all rights, makes it harder for them to actually cheat it out. Because here's the thing. You are 100% correct, Erica. 100% correct. Look at Arizona. The McCainites run Arizona. If you are in any way, shape, or form more, or let me say, less statist than John McCain, the
You're not winning in
the elites in Arizona will not let you win.
Yeah.
But the metrics are in such a way that no matter what, there's no fucking way that they're stealing this one. Not even close.
How many pipes do you think are going to burst at midnight on election day in these election offices where the votes are?
Oh God, dude, it's gonna be the most horrendous, dude. Honestly speaking, if they manage to actually fucking have the election, I'll be surprised at this point in time.
well, remember, 2020 wasn't a quote-unquote steal as people claim. Democrats have had the walking game under lock for a long fucking time because they're all urban. They are all fucking inner city and suburbs.
I would have agreed with you 8 months ago. Would have agreed with you 8 months ago.
Well,
Now, not so much.
I'm simply talking about 2020. 2020 was not a steal as people claim. It was a perfect storm of shit situations where, hey, we've got states locking down, so everyone's going to do mail-in ballots and early voting.
Oh yeah,
Like
100%. No,
like
I agree with you.
like we did in Iowa, and of course, people go walking door to door in states that allow people to collect ballots, and now you've got an entire demographic that was not politically engaged ever. being bothered by people walking door to door like fucking Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons saying, "Hey, have you cast your ballot yet? Oh, no, you haven't? How about you go ahead and cast it now, sign it, and give it to me. I'll take it in."
Oh yeah, no, and the ballot harvesting was definitely a problem. That's why the ballot harvesting is actually being attacked like hardcore. Unfortunately, a lot of the cases that are currently running through the courts, they won't finish out until after this election. It's just shitty timing. Most of them are going to finish out in like February, March by the looks of it. And it blows from my perspective because it's like, oh, I know for a fact that I'm going to find some little shitbag fucking trying to do that here in my apartment building, for example. And I'm probably gonna I'm gonna raise holy hell about it and be like, "Yo, cops!" And I'm gonna really fuck that dude's day up. But anyways, point is,
Well, just on that, I mean, I assume you live in a more right wing area. Would that be safe to assume, or do you live in like a shit liberal blue area?
oh no, it's so to describe Ohio,
Hmm.
basically you have Cincinnati, Dayton,
Hmm.
Toledo, Columbus, Cleveland, and these four areas, because Cincinnati and Dayton are right next to each other, so I consider them
Hmm.
one area. These four areas are where the primary base for the Democrats exist.
All right.
And then the Republicans control fucking everything else.
But
Like,
so if yeah, so if you're not in those areas, wouldn't you want someone ballot harvesting in that area? Because it
well,
mean
here's the thing.
Mhm.
Here's the thing is the situation with ballot harvesting across the board. A lot of people, the reason why we're not cool with it is because of how easy it is to reseal an envelope. And it's a fact that it's like, oh, hey, you pop the envelope, you check who they voted for. It removes the secret ballot aspect to it
Mm.
because then you can see, oh, they voted for Trump. I'm going to throw this one away. Oh, they voted for Harris. I'm going to put that one in the box,
Mm.
et cetera, et cetera. That's why we're hammering against it so much. Now, the simple fact is that even in my area, because I live in Summit County, so Summit County has Akron, which is part of the Cleveland, the Metro Cleveland area, technically speaking. And it almost always turns Summit County blue. But the margin is 10,000 votes. Ohio is not a battleground state. Like my dad keeps saying, like, oh, it's a purple state, it's a swing state. And I'm like, no, it's not. Like, e- ever since Strickland fucked up like he did here in Ohio and completely killed people's lives in 2008, 2009, we have only elected Republicans to the state to the governorship. We've only really elected people who were smart on the economy to the state senate and state house. Ohio is one of those states where we have the dynastic rule because, like, for example, the DeWines, if you don't know
Mhm.
anything about them, Mike DeWine is the current governor.
Yeah.
Patrick DeWine is one of our Supreme Court justices. Their family's been involved in politics in Ohio for 100 fucking years, et cetera, et cetera. But it was really a case of we voted for them just because the other option was voting for somebody who had tangentially a connection to Strickland. Strickland's policy in Ohio hurt the Democrats for the foreseeable future.
Is that bad?
Oh, dude, it was terrible.
No. So actually, so
Let's
just on the topic of Ohio, so why does Sherrod Brown keep getting elected?
Because Sherrod Brown's district includes Cleveland and
Wait,
Akron.
but Sherrod Brown is the senator, so it should be whole state, right?
No, so he's part of the Senate. So senators have their own districts.
I thought. Wait,
So so
aren't
they
Senate races statewide races?
y- y- no. So
no.
like
There
for example, my
each
senator.
Go ahead.
Yeah, my senator, technically speaking, is Sherrod Brown. Technically speaking, because of where I
So
live. But where I vote, because unfortunately I still need to get things swapped around because I moved. But where I technically am registered to vote, JD Vance is my senator.
so it's not each state votes for both senators. It's each state has 2 districts for Senate runs. And depending on which district you're in, you get to vote for
One or the other.
your choice of senator in that district.
But
So
so that means people who would not like most. Does that mean the people who are not in the district won't be able to vote for senator in Ohio this year?
yeah, no,
N-
you have to be within the district that that senator is being elected in. And that's why in Ohio we had a Republican and a Democrat because of the way it's structured. Now, here's the thing is the guy that JD Vance replaced, everybody fucking hated. They fucking hated his guts. He was one of these shitty ass fucking unipartyist pieces of shit that needed to go. And we replaced him with a fucking populist.
Yeah.
So that tells you where Ohio's fucking going.
Well,
My view on Sherrod Brown is most likely he's getting boofed this year.
and here's the thing. Iowa has the same problem. We've got 2 fucking shit senators. One of
One
them
of
is older
these,
than dirt.
yeah, fucking Chuck Grassley.
Yeah, Chuck Grassley, and
Oh,
um
Grassley is Iowa? Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
Grassley is Iowa. Grassley is the actually Grassley is my district. Um but when all is said and done, Iowa is still a battleground state. Even though pretty much our entire state house is red and only the cities like Cedar Rapids and Des Moines are blue. Um the people in the rural areas around Iowa have no problem voting blue.
Well, and that's because because people they idolize the blue dogs. They idolize people like RFK, for example. RFK, he truly is a blue dog. And that's what was so important about bringing RFK into Trump's cabinet. More than likely he will be attorney general, which, oh my god, that's going to be one hell of a wild ride. I'm going to love it.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt once more, but if you can just help me understand a bit, I'm gonna post a picture here. If there are only votes in certain districts, why do you then see, for example, if you look at the voting map of red and blue, it shows the whole state in the Senate election?
Okay,
Like,
so
wouldn't it only be certain districts in that state?
the way this works is there are gerrymandered districts.
Right.
And so you can have completely disjointed counties that are in a district.
Yeah, hold on. Let me Ohio
But
Senate district map. Let me see
But
if I
again, isn't that a house thing with districts? Like, for example, you have like I don't know, Ohio District the senator or the congressman from like Ohio District 3 or something. But like, if I was like, it would look
Well,
differently if I was.
look, you're looking at the primaries.
I don't think no, that was for the general election. That is why.
The screenshot that you brought up says Democratic primary.
No,
So
it's
these
the
these
U.S. Senate
these were the
election law.
these were the 2 that were part of the district during that election,
Oh
during that
no,
general election.
So this is only just because I wasn't able to grab the whole. The thing I was referring to was the image of the state where it showed which
Yeah,
counties went red and which
th-
went blue. I wasn't
that
referring to the
that
primary. That was just
that's
the first part of the article.
that specific image is for the primary.
It is.
Oh,
Yes.
oh shit. Okay. Actually, Dale, I apologize. Yeah, it's a statewide election here in Ohio.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, then never
it's
mind.
a
Yeah,
yeah,
you were
it's a
thinking.
full blown statewide
Yeah,
election.
I'm pretty sure you two were thinking of House districts, not Senate
No,
districts.
No,
I'm
no,
quite
certain
literally talking about Iowa has 2 districts, and you only vote for
and
your choice.
I thought Ohio had the same system. I thought it had the same system as well, but apparently not. Um, but to comment on Sherrod Brown, let me put it to this way: the thing with Sherrod Brown is that if you look at that map, look where he gets his base of support. It's Cleveland going all the way along the Great Lakes. That's his base of support. If
All the
you
way to
see,
Toledo.
is hold on, let
Toledo's 3
me
counties in.
is it? I thought it was further.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, it is. Oh fuck, it is. Okay, yeah, yep. So Toledo to Cleveland to Lake to fucking Ashtabula. Um, and if you actually look at that map, if you see that really dark blue one, that's Cleveland.
Mhm.
That's Cuyahoga County. Right below that, that slightly less darker blue one, that is Summit County. That's where Akron is. That's where I live, just north of Akron.
Hmm.
Um, and that's his core support. And here's the thing: is that um, all of these other counties, mind you, this is the 2018 map. All of these counties up here, like Lake, Ashtabula County, Lorain County, et cetera, all those counties have decidedly started going more red as of late. And Sherrod Brown, due to certain things that have come out and he has said and so on and so forth, has lost a lot of popularity in regards to that. So again, I believe that Marino, who is the guy who's challenging him, has a lot of opportunities to actually beat him. Um, one of the other main advantages that Marino has is that he is not actually uh was not actually born here in the US. He was born in Colombia, in Bogota,
Mhm.
and and he, that's going to play really well with the immigrants here in Ohio, because a lot of people don't know this. Ohio has a massive immigrant population,
Yeah,
and
especially
Sherrod
in
Brown,
Cincinnati.
yeah. Well, and here's the thing. Oh, wait, wait. Oh shit. Is he still the? No way. Is he still on that board? That's funny. I might end up working for this guy, technically speaking. That's funny.
Also, so just back to Iowa for 1 second. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm just looking at the vote in the 2020 presidential slash Senate race or
Mm-hmm.
races. They have roughly the same amount of people voting in them. So how can it be that only like half of the people, like only half of the people in Iowa are voting for each Senate, like for each senator as it is presidential? Because they both have about 900,000 total votes for the
You know,
winner and about
because
790,000 votes for the loser.
because the majority of the citizens live inside the cities. The 2 major cities, Cedar Rapids and Des Moines, they balance out the 2 major districts in Iowa. And so all of the counties around them when it comes to the Senate, they're the ones voting red, and Cedar Rapids and Des Moines are the ones voting blue. But it has also been in the past that the 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 rural counties of Iowa will still fucking vote blue. They did back in 2008 and 2012. Maybe not for senator, but for president, they did.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing, and again, this kind of plays into like why Minnesota, even though Minnesota you would think would be more of a safe state for Republicans because of the blue dog mentality, Minnesota is always going to be uh, a strong Democrat safe haven.
Mm-hmm.
Iowa kind of falls within that same position. And really what is currently happening, and this is my thing when it comes to the elections as a whole, is that the blue dogs have had a bit of a revival within the past couple years because of the shit to do with BLM and the Biden admin and so on and so forth. Like the blue dogs have started gaining a lot of prominence once more. And mind you, the blue dogs, if you really dig deep, they've got more populist roots than they do party roots. And they are looking more and more like they are possibly going to ally themselves with the Republicans. And again, this is why that unity ticket that I mentioned earlier is such a big fucking deal. And why I think it's a shoe-in for Trump, because it's like, oh no, you can't challenge him. He's got it all covered. Harris is going to crash and burn, and it's going to be funny listening to the people who bitch and whine and cry and call for civil war because, oh my God, we didn't win. We need to burn everything down.
The same people who, as of now, are constantly talking about our democracy.
Yeah, our democracy. And that's the funny part is like, and Dale, I'm guessing you've picked up on that they're not speaking about the entire population. They're speaking
Right.
about their
Yeah.
population.
When they say our democracy, what they mean is their hegemony.
And what really makes it fantastic for me on a personal basis is the fact that they think it's going to go the way they want it to just because. And it's like, no, like there are whole states that will just be like, fuck you. like
Yep.
like we don't care.
Yep. Hell, Texas has been doing that with the immigration issue for the last couple of years.
For the most part,
Heck,
yeah.
Texas is not somewhere where I'd want to live.
No. Due
Well,
to
yeah, if
political
you're
issues or like climate, like because it's fucking 40 degrees outside, or
No,
they said
because the
100
property
degrees.
taxes are so fucking high.
They are.
Yeah,
uh
you don't pay income tax in Texas. They've got to offset it somehow, so they take it in through property taxes.
11 no 9.6%.
Hmm.
Which here's the thing about Texas when it comes to to the whole thing is Texas is it's been kneecapped for years and years and years now, where Texas has always kind of maintained an independent spirit, but unfortunately they've allowed the federal government to kneecap them on so many different occasions that finally people have stopped kind of acknowledging that independent spirit. And so like with the whole Operation Lone Star stuff, that whole situation, like initially Operation Lone Star was a shit show.
What
Like
is Operation Lone Star?
that's the National Guard operation on the border.
Ah, I see.
And it initially speaking, it was a shit show. Like it was bad. But then as time went on, they finally got more and more organized, more set up, now they're building full-blown fobs on the border to start actually being able to operate properly instead of carting dudes in and out of areas on a continuous basis, because that's what they were doing, was that they would be there for the day, and then they would cycle guys out, bring the next batch in, and then the guys would be cycled out back to wherever the fuck they were, wherever they were based out of, their reserve center. And it was just logistically it was a fucking nightmare. And then of course you have the story of the woman fucking pulling a fucking M4 out of a car. Oh man, that was funny.
Okay, so we have reached our time cap. We went off in the weeds a little bit.
Clearly something
Always.
that never happens on this show.
Yeah, never happens. Never fucking happens. With all of that being said, we are going to go ahead and take a look at some metrics here. We had 0 views, at least on YouTube, on the horizontal stream, but we had 1, and we still have 1 on the vertical stream on YouTube. And I don't know what we've gotten out of Twitter, because I was not paying attention to any of that. But that's solid for how things have been in the past. At that, let's go ahead and do things in reverse. We're going to start off with Mike from the non-existent state of Ohio that thinks that boneless chicken contains bones. Please say goodnight, Mike.
I didn't say I liked Patrick DeWine. Never claimed that.
I never said you did.
Oh God, I fucking hate it so much. Anyways, you guys have a good one. I love you all. Bye-bye.
And then, of course, we will go to our resident Serbian from the former Soviet state of Serbia. Please say goodnight, Molly. If you're still there. No?
I think Wally is still muted.
I'm fairly... No, I unmuted her. No, she's got her headphones turned off.
Probably at work.
And so, Stoner, do you have a good night for the audience?
Adios, mi amigos.
We will see Stoner later. And, of course, our resident co-host of the current Soviet state of Kanukistan, our dirty Frenchy Frenchman, Dale. Please say goodnight, Dale.
Good night, everyone. Hope to see you next episode, whenever that may be.
And with all of that said, I need to pull something else up so that we can give everyone a proper send-off and a good night. I hope everyone has a good Labor Day tomorrow. We will see you all when we come back from hiatus. Have a good night.